The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Good afternoon and welcome to Chit Chatting with Jocelyn. This is going to be one heck of a show. You need to hang on to your seats. We have got General Don Bolduc. He is a declared, let me repeat that, declared U.S. candidate for Senate. But today's focus of the show is Afghanistan. I need you, the audience, we, the American people, to understand exactly what has just transpired. What are we looking at? What do we not know? Welcome to the show, Don. How are you?
Jocelyn, it's great to be here, and I look forward to chit-chatting with you.
I love it. I love our play on words. And of course, we have the wonderful Victor here, ever present, and I love it. He gives me my nice little bump with his nose and lets me know that he's here and that he's here to protect us all.
Yes, he is.
So why don't we do, and this is not to make light of it, but Afghanistan 101. From 2001, is that correct, to 2020? 2020.
Yeah.
Give us an overview. What do we need to know, and then let's see what's going on now.
Okay, so let me just establish for people that don't know who I am out there, 10 tours in Afghanistan from 2001 to the middle of 2013. It's easier to say that I was not in Afghanistan in 2003 and 4 because I was in an assignment in the Pentagon, and 2008 because I was in the United States Army War College, Carlisle Barracks in Pennsylvania. But every other year from 2001 to 2013, I was commanding troops in Afghanistan. And I commanded from the lowest level to general officer level. And over the Bush administration and the Obama administration, because during the Trump administration, I was commanding in Africa.
Okay.
So that's a long time, right? Two different administrations.
Absolutely.
And so the policy and strategy kind of plays out like this. In 2001, we went in, we invaded Afghanistan. We did it with special operation troops. It was an international effort, so we had other partners, British, Australians, Canadians, and U.S. forces. About 300 of us on the ground in northern Afghanistan, western Afghanistan, eastern and southern. You had to have that regional footprint, right? The Taliban and Al-Qaeda were the threat, and we successfully, from basically November of 2001 to June of 2002, disrupted, degraded, and neutralized the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. They were rendered ineffective. They could no longer do their job. On the 18th of December 2001, President Karzai was seated as the interim prime minister, and he appointed his governors in all the different provinces. Those governors went ahead and built their infrastructure in order to deal with security issues, in order to deal with governance issues, and provide services to the Afghan people. You know, things along the lines of justice and, you know, anything that a government should be doing, right?
How many troops were there?
About 300 of us.
300?
For the entire country at that time.
Wow.
And that was the right footprint. And it was the right footprint because we wanted the Afghans to have the will to fight. We wanted them to own the problem, right? Not pass the problem off to us.
Correct.
We wanted them to own the problem. So there were more of them than there were of us, so we had to rely on them to do the lion's share of the work. And they did it, and they gladly did it, and they rose to the occasion. And by June of 2002, in our opinion on the ground, it was done militarily. And what the international community had to do was assist Karzai with money and funding and perhaps humanitarian assistance and some development stuff, but not overdo it and not try to turn Afghanistan into a Western type
civilization,
government and approach. It's not what they wanted. That's not how they have done it for thousands of years. So we shouldn't do it. And it was mistakes that others made, from Alexander the Great to Genghis Khan to the British twice, and then the Russians. They tried to turn Afghanistan into something that it wasn't, and that's a bad idea. Well, we decided to do nation building in 2002, which we did not recommend. We didn't think that was a good idea. Let the Afghans do it and help them out where they need it, and allow them to keep the Taliban and Al-Qaeda out, right? Well, the Taliban are Afghans, so they were doing a pretty good job at that time reconciling the Taliban that were the Afghans that were Taliban. So let them do that. They know better than us.
Correct.
But we decided to get into that business. We decided to develop a national army, a national police, a government. We brought the Italians in to do the justice system. We brought the Germans in to do the police system. We used the U.S. Army and other coalition partners to do the Army. And then we wrote their constitution and we named their country. And we tried to factor out the Muslim religion in a Muslim country. That's not what you do. And Afghanistan was a very democratic approach to governance anyways in the rural areas. They have what these tribal elders and village elders have shuras, and they get together and they vote on decisions, right, that affect the villages and the districts. They only want their government to exist to ensure that they had the opportunity to bring their produce and their goats and their chickens and their sheep to market.
Basic trade.
Yes,
Which is one of the three actual parts of our Constitution.
Right.
Trade, infrastructure, and defense.
Right, exactly. And that's all they want them to do. And they were always small, they weren't large, and there was never a national army that would protect all of Afghanistan if there was an invader. It was always done from the bottom up, right? Well, we designed it from the top down, and we did it on a melting pot idea, which was another bad idea, because you can't take the tribes and the sub-tribes and intermix them. If you do, you're going to have a lot of problems. And that's what we did. And so we had a tremendous amount of problem there. So from 2002 to 3, they're starting to do this. And what happened in 2003? Well, we invaded Iraq. And we took a bunch of resources out of Afghanistan. So we're doing nation building in Afghanistan with one arm tied behind our back, not a focus that we needed, right? And not the resources that we needed. Well, what did the Taliban do? What did Al-Qaeda do?
Full advantage of it.
They resurged. And by 2005, they were back. And they were back with a vengeance. And from 2005 to 2009, 10-ish, they were an effective insurgency, right? In 2010, U.S. forces had the highest casualty rates they had in the country. And the Afghans were doing a pretty good job at negatively affecting security and governance and the safety and security of Afghan people in the rural areas. You control Afghanistan by controlling the rural areas, and they were being very successful. And what were we trying to do? Well, we were trying to chase them around, an elusive enemy around that could blend in and hide with large military formations and a national police and a national military, and it was just wholly ineffective, right? So in 2010, what happened? Well, Bush administration is gone, Obama administration is in, and in comes General McChrystal with a new strategy, an appropriate strategy, a comprehensive counterinsurgency strategy from the bottom up. And a bunch of us were put together, myself included, to figure out how we would train to be part of the government, the locals, right? So we came up with what we called village stability operations, and that's the use of special operation teams, Navy SEALs, Marine special operation teams, and special forces in the villages, in the rural areas, to work through, with, and by the village elders and the tribal elders to build a local police force that was indigenous to that area and walked to work or drove to work like our police do.
Yeah.
And not that they were like our police, but just to draw a comparison, they lived there. They protected their families, they protected their homes, they protected their crops, they protected their businesses.
Total skin in the game.
Right. Complete 100% skin in the game. And they did it because we were small teams. We couldn't fight for them. But we could help them with the training and the organization and the equipping that they needed.
And in the end, it's up to them to protect their village, their city,
It's
their
up to
town, their country.
Now, was it a perfect program? No. But is there any perfect program out there?
No.
No. But this was an effective program. And it did, by the middle of 2013, reverse the security situation so that the Afghan government controlled 90% of Afghanistan's rural areas. Pretty significant. The Taliban, Al-Qaeda were saying, we can't win with this strategy.
Right.
Right? But it takes some time to create this and to transition it to the Afghans. And so by the middle of 2013, we had the lowest casualty rates among U.S. forces and coalition forces. We had the lowest casualty rates in our Afghan forces. We had the highest level of security that we've ever had since the first rotation. And we were securing and governing the way Afghans have traditionally done it for thousands of years in these small areas. Boom, right? We had something. Well, I'm sitting in a meeting in the four-star headquarters in Afghanistan, and you had all the big generals sitting around the table, and you had the chief of staff, Mr. McDonough from the Obama administration, and the announcement comes that President Obama wants to transition from combat operations to non-combat operations and pull all of our assets out of the rural and village areas, right? And prematurely end this program. And I said, after, when it was an appropriate time, and very respectfully, I raised my hand and I said, well, with all due respect, here's kind of how I see it, because I was the guy that was at that time in charge of that program.
Right.
And I knew what the assessments were coming in from the RAND Corporation, the assessments coming in from the ground, the assessments from the Afghans, the assessments from our guys, the assessments from the interagency, everybody. And although, some people, for whatever reason, didn't really love the program, it was pretty effective, right? And they saw that. So it's hard to argue with results, right? And so I was told later that was a bad idea to speak up. And I continued to do it. I put in the assessments. I continued to say, not a good idea. And, one of your most experienced commanders in Afghanistan gets transferred to Africa because they wanted me away from the problem set.
They didn't want you speaking.
That's right.
They didn't want you telling truth, and they didn't want you as a person that truly cared about the Afghanistan people, but also your troops.
Our people.
And your people, and how this came together.
Right.
And you had essentially got the right recipe.
Right.
That worked for everybody. And most importantly, for the Afghanistan people and our military troops, our blood and treasure, which for some reason seems to me right now to be non-existent.
Right, yes. So what happened? Well, we changed our strategy in 2014 from top down,
And
came
you're
out of
gone.
villages. And by 2016, the entire security situation had reversed.
Again.
Our casualties had gone up. The Taliban had resurged. Al-Qaeda had resurged. And here comes ISIS, who was never there, right? And ISIS Khorasan comes from the eastern province of Iran. Well, we had known Iran was involved in Afghanistan from the very beginning. So this just confirms. This is a Shia organization that's come over. And, they're active now, by name active, right? So we got three enemies to deal with, and we can't deal with it appropriately. So the entire rural area changes. So remember, to control Afghanistan, you have to control the rural areas.
Correct.
Our casualty rates are going
back
up. The Afghan military and the Afghan police can't win a fight against the Taliban without our significant help. And this was true since 2005. Estimates since 2005. So these generals and these leaders of our military and our civilian at the highest levels that were in the Obama administration knew this, right? They're all the same people today, right? Remember, General Milley was a 3-star general in 2012 and 13, right? He was my boss, right? He's now the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, he's familiar with this whole process, right? The Secretary of Defense, Secretary Austin, he was the CENTCOM commander, right? So he was Afghanistan was part of his big picture. The Pentagon always got these assessments. The CIA got these assessments. The State Department got these. So the idea that they did not know the actual capabilities of the Afghan National Security Forces is absolutely false. They knew they would fall, and they knew they would fall relatively quickly. And so did we. As soon as they implemented this strategy that they have here, which we'll get to, I looked at my wife and I say, I give it 3 days at the most. And it went less than that, right?
Wow.
Because once you control those rural areas, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. And remember, we just isolated ourselves to one place, Kabul.
Correct.
So it made it even easier.
Yep.
So anyways, by 2019, we have the highest casualty rates that we've had in Afghanistan, right? That was 2018, from 2014 to 2018. This was a direct result of Obama's change in strategy and the very bad strategy that President Trump inherited. And so what's President Trump trying to do? Well, he says, hey, enough of these forever wars, we're getting out. Told his Department of Defense to come up with a plan. This was 2016, come up with a plan. Well, guess what? 2 years later when he asked for the plan, they didn't have it, right? Because they didn't want to leave, right? And I was with President Trump on this. I was still a general and still on active duty in 2016 when he became president. I was the commander in Africa, but I believed that he was correct when he said, let's get out of Afghanistan militarily. We got to change this mission. But he was doing it according to a plan and measured in holding the Taliban accountable.
Right, exactly.
He wasn't letting them dictate terms
Right.
to us.
It wasn't, just everybody go, see you later, sayonara,
Right.
good luck.
And I'm convinced that we wouldn't have this issue right now if he had been, if he had his second term. right?
Correct.
So let's just put that aside. He did the right thing. He asked for the plan. The people that worked for him didn't give him the plan. They didn't do the right thing. And it's the same guys
Continuing
here
right
now.
through that are here now.
Same guys. Same guys.
So,
right? So we get to this time frame.
Yep.
Right?
This awful,
Unmitigated disaster of geopolitical consequences, not to mention the danger that it put our service members in, American citizens in,
yep,
our allies,
yes,
and our Afghan partners
Correct.
that we owed, right? Now, this SIV system and all this other system, it's been broke for 20 years. I've been using that system to try and get guys over for 20 years, and it's a broken system. So do you think that broken system is going to be effective when you're in the middle of a crisis?
No.
Absolutely not. And so that's all the problems that we're seeing now. I must have done at least 45 letters by now just during this time frame. That doesn't include all the letters I've done back, from this point all the way back throughout
yep.
the years. And I've been successful in getting interpreters and their families over, or people that worked for us in other capacities. But this was not the way to do it. And Kabul was probably the worst airfield to work out of, given the fact that there's no standoff. They can come right up to the
Literally right up to the fence.
Yeah, right up to the fence line.
Yep.
And that should never have been allowed to happen either.
we should have stayed in, I always forget,
Well, they say Bagram, but I
yeah.
say no.
Okay.
I say that we shouldn't have given up Bagram. We shouldn't have given up Kabul. We should not have given up Jalalabad. We call it JBAD, or Kunduz, or MES, or Herat Airfield, and our airfield in the Helmand. And we should have seized those and secured them, right?
Yep.
We have plenty of forces to be able to do that. We can do it. You fly them in, they seize the airfield.
Boom.
And then we simultaneously bring in the forces that are going to create the corridors, safe corridors necessary so that we shorten the lines of operation and we're able to bring our folks in.
Correct.
And we have rotary wing aircraft to support that. We have ground aircraft to support that. And we have standoff security so they can't drive
Can't drive right on up. Yep.
or a suicide bomber come up or something like that. And then we shorten the lines because, let me just give you an example. If you're an American citizen in Kandahar and you're being told by this administration's brilliant plan that you have to get to Kabul, that's 484 kilometers through enemy territory. How are you going to do it? There's no buses. There's no subway.
There's no trains.
There's no trains. There's nothing. You got to either walk, hitchhike, or drive a car through enemy territory with all kinds of roadblocks and no protection whatsoever. And 3 very bad groups to get through. You think, and they've already purged the rural areas by now, by the way,
right?
Because they owned them. So they've already purged people, and they've already got people to trade, switch sides, so, to save themselves and their family, and because this is what they do. And so we're dealing with a huge problem. And what happened today, and I'm just going to say it, what happened today was not only malfeasance, it was high crimes and misdemeanors. And the president and the vice president and the entire administration on the civilian side at the senior levels and the military levels should all lose their jobs, and they should be facing criminal charges.
Absolutely.
This is a crime. This is not a casualty of war.
This is not resign. This is not bad boy, you get fired, bad girl, you get fired. This is
not
high
fog of
crimes
war
and misdemeanors.
Right. This is not the fog of war. It's not a mistake. It's not, it's war and sometimes bad things happen. This is complete reckless negligence. In their attempt to be risk averse in hand-wring, they have created a more dangerous situation for our service members.
And we've lost, and today we lost, if you don't pay attention to the news, and of course watching TV is useless, we lost 4 Marine Corps.
Yes.
That's
what I heard on the news before I came in here.
That's what we heard.
And I've been
and that kills me.
Going from meeting to meeting and traveling. And
I could literally cry. It's killing me.
Well, I'm sick to my stomach, right? And it didn't have to be this way. The mistakes were made 2 weeks ago. It's been 2 weeks of reinforcing failure.
Yep.
Every single day.
And doubling down and tripling down.
Right, exactly.
And the thing that makes me, and it doesn't matter what service, what branch of the service, my family happens to be Navy, Army, and Marine Corps. My son's Marine Corps. It doesn't matter who it is, but it kills me. And that people can go through the day. I'll probably start crying. But this is the way we have to be. This is the truth. This fake armor of it doesn't matter. It's not fog of war. Oh, well, this is on the heads of this administration and this commander-in-chief.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can't sugarcoat this.
And any general that hasn't taken their stars off their collar and thrown it on the table and said, I have reached the point where I am now violating my oath and my responsibility to the men and women that I am responsible for, that I work for. This has gone far enough. Here, take it. This is my, I can't allow this to happen in good conscience. I told my wife, I said, if I was that 2-star general standing there briefing at the Pentagon, I'm listening to him brief. He's a logistics guy. He knows what he's talking about in terms of planes going here and civilian reserve aircraft and, all this other stuff. Okay, yeah, all right, I get that. But I would have looked at the camera and I would have said, I'm sorry. This is wrong. This is bad. This is terrible. This is a complete lack of responsibility. Now, I would have been summarily retired, but
isn't that how you should go out?
That's right. Sometimes you know, if you're not willing to lose your job, right? If you're not, as a public servant, if you're not willing to lose something to do the right thing, then you're not there for the right reasons.
Correct.
And that's what we see. And it's been like that for a long time. And that's why we have these overarching problems that are negatively affecting our society, our communities, our families, and we can see it. And it's terrible. I'm a general, a former general, and I'm telling you right now that I draw no quarter for the senior leadership in our military today. No quarter whatsoever. They are responsible for this because none of them stood up and said, this is wrong. By today, I'll give them to today. They should have done it today. But
we're still not. We're still playing.
They really
word
should have done it
games.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. We're playing word games. We're playing, who can pat who on the back. We're looking at a commander-in-chief that is now thrown out this disgusting comment that says, well, if our American citizens, if they want to come home.
Right. Yeah.
That sounds to me like, because you just got finished saying.
How about when he was on with Stephanopoulos there? What is he? ABC News, and he said, well, Mr. President, you had a plane taking off and you had Afghans falling off the plane and to their death, and he goes, oh, that was 4 days ago. Right?
Who says that?
Here's what I liken this to. Right? We have a collateral damage incident, right, in Afghanistan, which has happened, right, because the fog of war. Mm-hmm. And they come up to us and they say, well, we're going to do an investigation on this collateral damage thing. Well, why? It happened 4 days ago.
Because that's how, it's like history.
That's no
what
excuse.
You learn from. No.
That's no excuse.
That makes me ill.
It's okay, at this level. It's not okay at this level. And it's just wrong. We're operating so far off our values and our principles right now, and the rest of the world sees it. And Taiwan is scared. Australia's scared. Our president just got censured by the British Parliament.
Yes.
They didn't even censure us when we beat them in the Revolutionary War. That's never happened. And that is one of our most trustworthy allies throughout history in Western Europe. Come on.
So not only have we lost this morning and in the past blood and treasure, Americans, patriotic Americans, military people, mm-hmm. The American taxpayer has spent trillions mm-hmm. in helping countries across the world, and specifically in the Middle East. It is my understanding that there are billions of dollars worth of equipment that has been, it was intended for the Afghani troops, but they don't have it. Mm-hmm. It's now in the hands of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Taliban.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How does this happen? Why is that not blown up? I mean, I know that's a very civilian comment, but mm-hmm. Why is that there for anybody? If the Afghani troops could not hold on to it, or they couldn't get to it, or it was out of their reach if they were cut off, why do we have billions of equipment that is now given these people the best of the best mm-hmm. so that they can kill more people? And I know it's at the bottom of the rung, but at taxpayer expense, and we're told, shut up and sit down. Mm-hmm. You're told, shut up and sit down.
Right.
What is there? What is actually there? What have we actually lost? We've lost an embassy?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we've lost an embassy, we've lost headquarters, we've lost airfields, we've lost a tremendous amount of infrastructure. They will strip these infrastructures down to nothing. I've seen it, and they're very efficient at it. They'll use all the copper, they'll use all the wire, they'll use everything they possibly can. They'll gather it up. Some of it will be used to make, IEDs and other things, but most of it will be brought to Pakistan to be sold. You mentioned the blood and treasure, but we also lost our reputation. We also left our character and integrity behind. You can't replace that. You can't even put a price on that. Nope. And then when you look at the equipment that has been lined up, and you can see it in the pictures, those are lucrative targets, right? And we could with little collateral damage, take those things out, right? We knew, I knew, everybody knew, in my opinion, that the Afghan National Security Forces were going to fail. So we knew all of that stuff was going to fall into the hands of the Taliban. And you've seen pictures of them going into our headquarters places and using our exercise equipment. Well, they don't know how to use it, so they're just, hanging on it and doing whatever. All of that stuff. Everything that we left behind will be used against us either through propaganda. When I went to Afghanistan in 2001, all I saw was Russian equipment all over the place, just lined up collecting dust, because they have a huge problem with being able to maintain it.
Right.
Which is a good thing. They don't, the Taliban, they don't have any pilots, right? So they're going to have to figure out, how they're going to be able to leverage that. But they can sell it.
Correct.
Right?
I was just going to say
they can sell it to China. They can sell it to Iran.
More
they can
money
sell
to fund them.
Exactly. And so they're going to do all kinds of stuff. My son, who's in the Army National Guard here, saw one of the Taliban guys, walking around with a M4 with all kitted out with the sights, the ACOG system, all that stuff that we put on it. And he goes, I don't even have that on my weapon, right? So this is a huge waste of our money. It's going to be used against us. And every time we leave an embassy anywhere in the world, and I've been part of evacuating embassies, particularly in Africa, we have always regretted it.
Yep.
Because we want to go back at some point. And when we go back, we have to put just as much money back into it.
Correct.
And so if we had done this right, we could have secured all those areas. We could have made sure that the investment that we made in the Afghan military and police wasn't a completely wasted investment.
Yep.
And we have that obligation to the taxpayers of this country. And just throwing that money away and forgetting about it and writing it off is also a travesty, right? It's malfeasance. It's unaccountable. If I had not been able to account for 1 penny in my budget as the Special Operations Commander Africa budget, 1 penny, I would be held accountable for that penny. If I'm missing 1 pencil, right?
You're held
1
accountable.
pen, 1 paper, I can't match the books, I'm in huge trouble, right?
This is what the American people
But
don't
they get away with it.
understand.
No.
But we are looking at billions, if not trillions, literally
$3 trillion
flush.
in Afghanistan, over $7 trillion when you combine Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and we did the same thing there, right? We just left stuff, and it ends up in enemy hands, and they end up figuring it out how to use it against us.
Against us. The key being they figure out how to use it against us. And it is just so beyond frustrating to me. So we've lost equipment. How many air bases? 8?
Yeah, about that.
About 8?
Yeah, about 8, I would say.
Because people understand
and then
numbers.
Smaller airfields that we had
we
created.
lost an embassy. We've lost about 8 airfields.
Headquarters.
We've lost headquarters. We've lost equipment.
An army and a police force.
Yeah.
That we spent $85 billion on.
Training.
Yes.
$85 billion.
And loss of American lives in the process.
And now, loss of respect and standing in the world.
In the world. All-time low.
Because
all-time low.
This commander-in-chief and his administration, complicit with his decision, not one person spoke up.
Nope.
Not one.
Not one.
Not publicly.
Not one. And saying I spoke up in a meeting, no, not good enough.
Where's the proof?
Sorry, not good enough.
No, it isn't. And well, I'm not going to go there because everybody narked literally on 45 in every meeting, but we haven't had any leaks, have we?
There's been no intel leaks. There's been no leaks about anything over the last, 6, 7 months, 8 months now?
And to digress just a little bit, and where is the commander-in-chief?
Well,
Camp David, vacation, came and did a 15-minute speech and left and went back on vacation? Who does that?
Yeah.
I don't even know a CEO of McDonald's or a CEO of a small business that would abandon ship and go on vacation when we have people being killed, when we have their employees
Yeah, we know
Being held captive?
that wherever he goes on vacation, he can still do his job, but just the idea of going on vacation during a crisis, it's the wrong
It's
answer.
unconscionable.
It
totally.
It's the wrong answer. But they all do it. They all do it, you know. So, well, not all, but you see it more often than we should see it.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, of course, they need their downtime, but as a leader, you sacrifice those things.
Yes.
Right. That's what you do.
That's
for the good
why
of
you
public
signed
service.
up for it.
Right.
You get your vacation after 4 years or after 8 years.
That's right.
I mean, did you get to say ever at any time, I'm sorry, I'm a wee bit tired now.
Right.
I need some R&R.
No.
I don't think so. I don't think that ever happened. In fact, I know it never happened.
No.
How many tours? 10 tours? Mm-hmm. And did you ever say, time out? Sorry,
No.
sorry.
Never.
No. I don't know any military people that go time out.
No.
I need my beauty
We
rest.
don't have the option.
What do you see happening? Where are we? What are we going to do right now?
Well,
are
it's
we
going to
just?
get worse, and I think the 2022 elections are too far away. Right?
I think so too.
Something has to be done now.
Now.
Right? And oh, by the way, there's no good choices. You get rid of him, and you got Kamala Harris, or you get rid of both of them, and you got Nancy Pelosi. I mean, come on. And even in the military, you get rid of them, and you got someone just like them coming in.
Yep.
Right? You got the same administration. You got the same problem. Right? And because they have politicized on the Republican side and the Democrat side, we can't come together as Americans and solve these problems. And that's the biggest problem. That's why career politicians and all their special interests and their lobbyists and all this other stuff, we need new people that aren't tied to all that crap and that come in with bona fide public service records that they can that the people can hang their hat on and go, that guy's going to serve me. He's going to serve this country. He's going to be loyal to his oath. And when push comes to shove, it's not going to be about him or her. It's going to be about the people. We don't have that now.
We don't
and we
have
need
that
it
now.
sooner rather than later.
We do.
And I think everyone can see it. This 76% of Americans who disagree with what he's doing, I'm perplexed by the 24%.
Exactly.
So-
What do they need to
My
change their
goodness.
mind? I don't think there's much left.
No.
This has been absolutely awesome. I want to thank you. I do want you to come back. I want to congratulate you on being honest and forthright and a true American patriot at all times. And God bless you. And let's keep this going.
Well, you're welcome. And my prayers go out to the family members that just lost 4 Marines and all those that were injured on both sides, Afghans, and Americans and anyone else. And also, our men and women in our military over the last 20 years did not let us down. Our leadership let us down. And we need to remember that.
We do.
So thank you very much, and the best to all your viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, chit-chatting with Jocelyn and General Don Bolduc. We will see you next week. God bless everybody.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.